Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber Security Plus podcast. This series helps you prepare for the CompTIA Security Plus exam with focused explanations and practical context. For a companion study guide, check out the Achieve CompTIA Security Plus 701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. It is the most concise and complete Security Plus guide on the market, built for busy professionals who want to pass the exam fast and on their first try. You can find this book and others at cyberauthor.me. Policies are the engine of every organization's security program. They tell people what is expected of them, what is allowed, and what is prohibited when interacting with technology and sensitive information. In this episode, we will walk through 3 of the most important types of security policies you are likely to encounter on the Security Plus exam and in the real world: acceptable use policies, information security policies, and business continuity and disaster recovery policies. Each of these plays a vital role in shaping behavior, protecting assets, and ensuring resilience when things go wrong. Let's start with the acceptable use policy. This is one of the first policies an employee is likely to encounter, often presented during the onboarding process. The acceptable use policy defines what users can and cannot do with the organization's information systems, devices, and networks. Its goal is to establish clear expectations for behavior and reduce the likelihood of accidental or intentional misuse. An effective acceptable use policy will include specific guidance on things like accessing non-work websites, installing unauthorized software, using personal email accounts on work systems, or connecting personal devices to the corporate network. It should also explain the consequences for violations. These might include disciplinary action, revocation of access, or even termination. A good policy will also set boundaries for data handling, such as not copying sensitive files to unapproved storage or sharing internal information on social media. Consider a company that includes a rule in its acceptable use policy stating that employees must not use peer-to-peer file sharing software on work computers. This rule is important because such applications can expose the network to malware or unauthorized data sharing. In one real-world example, an employee at a large organization downloaded a peer-to-peer application to share music, not realizing it was also sharing internal documents from their work folder. Because the acceptable use policy was clearly written and reinforced through training, the company quickly identified the breach and took immediate corrective action. This shows how effective policy design, combined with awareness, can prevent major security incidents. Now let's move to the second category, information security policies. These are the core documents that describe how an organization protects its data, systems, and other valuable assets. Unlike the acceptable use policy, which focuses on user behavior, information security policies provide the strategic framework for the organization's entire security program. These policies typically cover data classification, encryption, access controls, monitoring, password requirements, and more. A strong information security policy clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities of employees, system owners, administrators, and vendors. It establishes rules for securing data at rest and in transit. It also details how technologies such as firewalls, antivirus software, and encryption tools should be used. For example, the policy might require that all portable storage devices be encrypted before being used to store or transfer sensitive information. These rules are designed to create consistent, repeatable practices that reduce the risk of breaches and help the organization comply with regulations. Let's look at a case study to see how information security policies can make a difference. A regional bank was facing increasing pressure from regulators to improve its data protection practices. It responded by creating a comprehensive information security policy that covered all systems and outlined minimum security requirements for every department. After rolling out the policy, the bank also invested in security awareness training and technical audits. Within 6 months, the bank had identified and closed dozens of configuration gaps, improved access control across its networks, and passed its regulatory audit with no findings. This success was directly linked to the strength and clarity of its security policy. Information security policies also help in incident response. When a security event occurs, the policy acts as a guide. It tells responders what types of activity are considered violations, who is responsible for containment, and what data must be preserved. It also helps legal and compliance teams determine whether reporting requirements have been triggered. Without a strong policy, the response can be slow, uncoordinated, and risky. The third major policy area we will cover is business continuity and disaster recovery. These two concepts are closely related but serve different purposes. Business continuity is about keeping operations running during and after a disruption. Disaster recovery focuses on restoring systems, data, and infrastructure after an event such as a cyber attack, power outage, or natural disaster. Together, these policies form the backbone of organizational resilience. Business continuity and disaster recovery policies define key concepts such as recovery time objectives, recovery point objectives, and critical system priorities. They identify essential personnel, communication plans, alternate locations, and backup strategies. For example, a business continuity policy might state that all customer service operations must be restored within 4 hours of an outage. The disaster recovery policy then outlines how to meet that objective, such as restoring virtual machines from cloud backups and rerouting phone calls through a secondary call center. Here is a practical example. A mid-size manufacturing company experienced a ransomware attack that encrypted its entire inventory management system. Fortunately, the company had developed and tested a disaster recovery plan. The policy called for nightly encrypted backups, stored off-site, and regular tabletop exercises. When the attack occurred, the information technology team followed the policy step by step. They wiped the affected servers, restored data from the previous night's backup, and brought the system back online within 6 hours. This rapid response prevented delays in production and minimized financial losses. The company also avoided paying the ransom because it had a reliable recovery process in place. It is important to note that business continuity and disaster recovery policies are not static. They must be reviewed and updated regularly, especially when there are changes to the organization's systems, infrastructure, or risk environment. Policies should also be tested through simulations and drills. These tests ensure that staff are familiar with the procedures and that recovery plans work under realistic conditions. When policies are allowed to become outdated or ignored, the consequences during an actual disaster can be severe. From a Security Plus exam perspective, understanding the different roles of these policies is essential. You need to recognize that acceptable use policies guide everyday behavior. Information security policies provide the high-level framework for protecting systems, and business continuity and disaster recovery policies are about resilience and response. Be prepared to identify policy types based on scenario descriptions and evaluate their effectiveness. Here is a helpful tip for the exam. Focus on the intent behind each policy. Acceptable use is about setting user expectations. Information security policies are about building structure and consistency. Business continuity and disaster recovery policies are about planning ahead for disruption. On the test, you may be asked which policy would be most appropriate for a given risk or situation. Think through what the organization is trying to achieve, and that will lead you to the correct answer. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.